The Home Office has admitted to losing 1.6 million migrants in the latest embarrassment to an organisation that clearly is letting down the British people. And I will say deliberately so, because they knew that these figures were completely ridiculous. In this video, I'm going to go through what has gone wrong with the Home Office and how a future government needs to fix it. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe, but more importantly, hit the bell notification icon. It's the best way to absolutely guarantee you get all my videos as soon as they are released. Well, 1.6 million is the total number that the Centre for Immigration Studies says it has been lost by the Home Office. Let me explain. We know that they've failed in multiple areas, but this particular one happens to relate to the European Union withdrawal agreement from after Brexit, after we voted to leave the EU. And what did the European Union request? They requested the surrender of Northern Ireland, the giving over of British sovereign waters to the European Union, I think it was between 40 and 90 billion pounds in reparations. They also wanted Britain to be subject to trade agreements, and they also wanted for citizens of the European Union to be allowed to continue to come to the United Kingdom, but that their rights would be enforced by the European Court of Justice, creating a new aristocracy in Britain. This would be the sort of deal a defeated nation would sign after a war. Certainly, it's more punitive than the Treaty of Versailles was on Germany, and of course that literally caused the Second World War, in addition to other socio-economic factors. So, what has happened? When this deal was finally signed, it was watered down. It was still a surrender agreement, there was no doubt about it, but it wasn't quite Treaty of Versailles territory. What happened was we gave Northern Ireland to them in terms of economics. Our waters would give access to their fishing fleets, but we wouldn't cede sovereignty over to them. And we gave them about half the amount of money we wanted. But when it came to EU nationals, any EU national that was already living in the country the day the Brexit deal was signed would be allowed to stay forever. They would get indefinite leave to remain. The Home Office estimated that a total of 4.1 million people would be entitled to remain in the United Kingdom, but not all of them would bother staying. They reckon probably, somewhere around 2.5 million, something like that, would stay. In fact, 4.2 million people have now stayed. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I agree with what Poland said in the Brexit negotiation, where they say that their people were net contributors to the economy. I think actually we've learnt subsequently that bringing European people into the country was a much better option than bringing in people from further afield, because of obviously those cultural ties that Christian Europeans will have for each other that clearly don't exist when you're talking about, say, an Eritrean, a Somalian or whatever. But there was still an issue with the large numbers of them. Remember Tony Blair going on about how much our economy had benefited from Eastern European immigration. In a sense, it had benefited. The economy had grown, but wages had gone down. And of course, there was a significant amount of poverty caused by that. And that was something that we needed to worry about and something we needed to think about. Because I remember Tony Blair saying, we've created millions of jobs. And the old political adage is this: yes, but I've got 3 of them and I still can't pay the bills, says somebody in, say, Wigan, Salford, Bradford, those sorts of places. But what is going on with the Home Office? Well, the reality is, I remember in 1999 when that huge mass immigration began. And I remember Andy Burnham, the Member of Parliament for Leeds, saying that we were all mad, that it was a conspiracy theory, that the number of people we were saying were coming to the country hadn't actually arrived. And of course, what we saw was our own streets starting to change. We saw people come over from Poland with, in those days, Poland was pretty poor, with those quite outdated Soviet Union style tracksuits that they all tended to wear. And then, of course, you could see they stuck out like a sore thumb. But what is wrong with the Home Office? Well, I will tell you what is wrong with the Home Office. It is dominated by immigrants. That's the reality. People who are interested in immigration have gravitated towards the Home Office. There was a video on this channel the other day that said countries where there was a high number of people approved for asylum in the UK, there was pressure to approve them very, very quickly. We allow people in from Afghanistan who've been convicted of crime as long as the prison sentence wasn't over 12 months. Now, I would suggest to you that most people in this country would not want any foreign criminal in the country, let alone, oh, never mind, he only got a conditional discharge, or never mind, he only did community service, or never mind, it was only a court-martial. I don't believe that that is an appropriate way to do things. And similarly, the Home Office for years has been paying off extremists. Now, I have to say to you, I remain of the view that there has been a policy of the Home Office. I think the original policy was this. The policy has always been to water down the British nation. When we talk about immigration to this country, what was it? 50,000 Huguenots in total over 100 years, whereas now we get, 50,000 people a month coming into the United Kingdom. I think it's about 100,000 a month, isn't it, coming into the UK? So twice what they sent in 100 years comes in 30 days. That is the shock. And then, of course, the Home Office are absolutely delighted about this. So they initially want to water us down in the hope, blur's hope, that that would mean we would vote for the EU. I remember watching BBC London. If you ever want to know what the political left are doing, watch BBC London. I remember watching them and they're going, these two London businessmen are extremely concerned about Brexit. Mr. Nicolau and Mr. Papadopoulos are concerned about it. And Mr. Nicolau was from Romania and Mr. Papadopoulos was from Greece. Nothing wrong with that, but they'd been given their EU passports. Now, of course, what is the criticism that Vladimir Putin gets? That during the Soviet Union, they moved ethnic Russians into countries across Eastern Europe, particularly in the Soviet Union, and those people now vote for pro-Russian interests. Of course, moving EU citizens into the UK would lead to them all voting for a more positive outcome from the country they come from. And the country they come from is, of course, the EU. So I think that was initially the Home Office plan, but now what the Home Office plan is to make Britain have a much larger voting bloc from the Islamic world. They are encouraging immigration. 81% of asylum applications are granted in Britain. It's 15% in Germany and 20% in France. This is a deliberate policy to get this country to change forever. Because I will tell you the truth of the matter, and this is the thing that they hate Tommy Robinson for. You cannot enact global socialism. President Xi of China cannot win. You cannot allow Vladimir Putin to do what he does as long as there is a strong and independent United Kingdom, because we will find a way to build a coalition. Look at the defeat of Nazi Germany, the way that we brought in America. America was the 17th largest military power in the world at the beginning of the Second World War. We gave them all sorts of equipment that enabled them to win the war, because obviously Britain was never going to win it alone, but we could pick the winner. By the way, my favourite thing about that period, and it shows you the ingenuity that an independent Britain can bring about. I remember when it was said in the Daily Telegraph that the reason that RAF pilots were so good at shooting down the Luftwaffe is they ate carrots and it gave them great eyesight. And you know what the Luftwaffe said? No, that series of masts that they built in southern England is a super weapon that can see us in the dark, radar. Anyway, I digress ever so slightly. But let me tell you this. The reality is it's time to abolish the Home Office. It's time to clear out all of the jihadis and all of the pro-immigration people from there. It's time for these people who approve immigration to the United Kingdom to stop approving people who have been convicted of crime. And once again, what happens in this country is what always happens. What happened right the way through our time in the European Union. We were always told that we were conspiracy theorists and that in fact, when we were claiming uncontrolled immigration was going to be a problem, EU military was going to be a problem, all of these things, we were just paranoid lunatics. And when the figures came out, it was all proved to be absolutely right. And then they say, hey ho, never mind. Hey ho, never mind, at 1.6 million is a real problem. I don't have a problem with Polish people. I don't have a problem with Christians from Eastern Europe coming to this country if we need the labour. But I will say one thing absolutely for certain. 1.6 million is far too many. Until next time, goodbye.